Okay, okay, we'll go. So, should I start?
Yes.
Okay,
They have a little formal welcome and all that. Just
okay, okay, okay.
Jeevita, are you during today?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good evening and a very warm welcome to all who present here. First of all, I am here to. Ma'am, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, ma'am. Good evening and a very warm welcome to all who present here. Happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers and upcoming teachers, ma'am.
Happy Teachers' Day.
Thank you, Jeevita.
Mm.
We are delighted to begin today's session of fortnightly symposia of In Tandem Research Club organized by PG and Research Club, Department of English, Queen Mary's College. Today's title for today's meeting is Adivasi. Adivasi meaning original inhabitants are diverse indigenous communities in India with distinct cultures, language, and traditions, often residing in forest and hilly regions. Without any further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker for this evening session, Professor Nibedita Mukherjee from Department of English in Sidho Kanho, Birsha University, Purulia, India. She is specialized in the field of feminist studies, humanities, and eco-critical studies with special reference to indigenous folklore literature and sustainability practices. Madam Mukherjee has 5 books to her credit. She was the recipient of the USA State Fellowship Award funded by Department of State USA and gathered teaching learning experience for a brief span in Settle, the editor of Wesleyan Journal of Research, an international research journal. She is on the editorial board of number of national and international journals. Nibedita ma'am is here to speak on the topic The Keepers of Traditional Knowledge System, a study of Santal Women of Puruila.
Thank you, Jevita. So, without much ado, I will directly go to my presentation. Mm, is it visible?
Yeah, ma'am, you are visible, ma'am.
Mm, the PowerPoint is visible, right?
Your screen is visible, you should say.
The
Yes, the
screen
screen
is,
is visible.
yes, yes, yes. Just a minute. I'll see if I can. Is this visible? The PPT? Just
Your mailbox is visible.
okay, okay, just a minute. Mm, Just a minute. Mm, I will close this. Is it now visible? The keepers of traditional knowledge?
Not as yet.
Not as yet. Just a minute. Just a minute. don't know why this is not working. Should I mail it to one of you?
Yes, or you even send it by WhatsApp. I will, if it WhatsApp is easier.
Okay, then I'll send it by WhatsApp. To be some
Send it to
problem.
me.
Okay, sending.
Nancy, are you there? Can you screen? Nancy or Prithvirajan? Is Prithvirajan on the call?
No, ma'am, he has not joined yet.
Sai, can you screen it if I send it to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you received it, ma'am? Ma'am, have you received it? I've sent it by WhatsApp.
Yes, I've received it. I'll send it.
Mhm.
To whom shall I send it? Nancy or Sai? Nancy?
Ma'am, you can send it to me, ma'am.
I'll send it to Nancy. Yeah.
Okay.
I've sent it to Nancy. She'll screen it.
Okay. Okay. Now, when I want to talk about these people, before I come to it, I would like to introduce this Purulia region ecotopia to you people. It is a vast array of mountainous hills covered by forest, though with time the forest reserve is slowly being lost. All right. There was a time when the forest was there used to be a huge spread of forest, but with time, it is slowly being lost. According to the forest reports, if I go to it, according to the forest reports of 1985, the forest cover in Purulia was around 924 square kilometers. But in 2014-15, it has been reduced to 800 square kilometers. So you can understand the manner in which the forest land is being slowly lost. So this forest land, the picture you can see, around these areas now live a number of indigenous groups such as Santals, Birhors, Thoras, Lodhas, Sabars, etc. Now, for this presentation, actually not just for this presentation, but for some time now, I have been working with these people, or rather the women group amidst this indigenous communities. As I told y'all, it is difficult, and y'all know also, to find a place in their society. But because we teach their children, somehow they have accepted a number of us. So we usually go, in order to talk to the women, I usually go in the afternoon time when the men are away for their, still some of them practice hunting. They are away on hunting, and the women kind of open up to you. These women are actually, they are the custodians of the traditional knowledge system, and yet, as in the entire, we can say, Indian society, largely patriarchal society, they are under the male population. It is they who give birth to children, look after the children, provide sustenance to the family, and most of the men, if they are not away hunting, that is a small portion of their time is taken up hunting, then they take muhua and they remain intoxicated. So these women, they share almost a 20-hour workload and providing sustenance to everyone. So, if we look at it, the traditional ecological knowledge of these Santal women, we will find they have knowledge in different spheres. The forest ecosystem, I told you they depend on the forest for their sustenance largely. So, they have to know the forest well. They call the forest their mother. All right, so it is who provides them sustenance, provides them life. And over here, where I'm talking about the forest, I would like to point out one thing. I was going through Ramchandra Guha's this book on the forest systems on in India, in the pre-colonial and post-colonial forestry in British and post-British India. And over there, he has pointed out how, though the forest originally belonged to these people, these indigenous groups, they were known as the Banvasis. They lived in the forest. But slowly, not just today, from the Forest Act of 1865, Forest Act of 1878, and the Forest Act of 1927, these forests were slowly being taken away from them. It was slowly being taken away from them. They were the people of the forest, and at the same time, they did not have any right over the forest. Yet, the women, they know the forest very well. This is a picture which actually I took during one of our visits, and this herb, it is very common. So these women, besides using the forest product for sustenance, they also know the ethnobotanical quality of these forest herbs. All right, there are around 11 herbs in some areas and 19 herbs in some areas, which are reared, protected, and used by them for preserving the health of their families. It is they. Actually, the nearest hospital, I was to a Bidhor community, and the nearest hospital was around 54 kilometer, and 54 kilometer of mountainous region. So you can understand how far it is away. That almost the people will pass away before they reach any forest. So they depend on these women and their medicinal knowledge for every kind of treatment. Next slide, please. So if we look at it, the woman, as I told you, we can divide it on one side, there is the ethnobotanical knowledge, another side they have this agricultural knowledge, and at the third sphere they have the cultural knowledge. So in the agricultural knowledge, there is they know when and which seeds are to be planted, are to be used. They can select the right kind of seeds. They can preserve those seeds, making sure that the genetic integrity of the soil product is continued. They know the soil very well. So what they do is they do not use the same soil for cultivation again and again. They kind of go about in a round manner. Once a soil is used, it is left barren for some time in order to regain the nutrition of its system, and they again come back to cultivate it. And as I told you, they believe in the rhythmic cultivation, the seasonal rhythms. They know which season is good for sowing and which season for harvesting. And as y'all said, it is now Onam. So they have their own festival when they actually, it is called the Karam festival. It was 2 days back actually. On Wednesday, they had their Karam festival when they celebrate this goddess of, we can say, goddess, the mother goddess who produces everything. Over here, I would like to point out something that was said by Vandana Shiva. Vandana Shiva, in her book Staying Alive, she had written that in most cultures, women have been the custodians of biodiversity. I'm quoting from her. They produce, reproduce, consume, and conserve biodiversity in agriculture. However, in common with all other aspects of women's work and knowledge, their role in the development and conservation of biodiversity has been rendered as non-work and non-knowledge. Household work is non-work. In a patriarchal society, obviously the traditional knowledge system which they pass on from generations to generations, this is considered non-work or non-knowledge. All right, next slide, please. So, this is the philosophy of their maintaining balance within nature. Use, but don't destroy. What we usually do, we use the wealth of the Mother Earth. According to Indian theology, the earth is known as Prakriti, all right, our mother, which produces, she's the mother goddess, who gives us everything that we live on, from water to food to air, everything. But what do? We use it up to a level where the entire balance of nature is completely destroyed. The pandemics taught us this very well. We'll go to the next slide, please. This is the ethnobotanical knowledge I was talking to y'all about. They know very well what herbs to be used and what kind of roots and leaves are very important for their food. They repertoire includes effective remedies for common ailments, everything that they know. They nowadays people have very commonly been using the plant moringa plant, right? But they through generations have been using the moringa leaves, the moringa seed, the moringa fruit, and even when it is not the season, dry up and store the moringa leaves to be used in other seasons. So we come to the next slide, please. Food and nutrition, I have talked about this. Next slide. So they have a sacred bonding with nature. I told you, they consider nature to be Prakriti. They consider the flora and the fauna to be sacred, and they believe in a kind of spiritual ecology. Next. I was talking about this, the fruit and fodder. There is, these people, they have their own paintings, and the colors they use for those paintings, those colors are obtained from nature itself, from the leaves, from stones. They use even the barks of the trees for obtaining these different kinds of colors. Next. So, this traditional knowledge, how is it maintained and how is it passed on from generation to generation? On one hand, it is an oral and rural in nature, it is intergenerational, it depends on the location, it depends on the survival strategies, and it is dynamically based on innovation, adaptation, and experimentation. But slowly with time, it is kind of losing out. The younger generations, they are more interested in social media, television, the outer world, rather than carrying forth the knowledge that has been carried by their mothers and grandmothers and generations before that. Next slide. So, one very important aspect that I found is that folk songs, they, whatever they have to say, they say it in a very endearing manner through folk songs that are transferred from the mothers sing, the daughters sing, the granddaughters sing, and in this way it is passed on. Next picture, please. Next slide. Yes, the Tushu song. For instance, they use the Tushu songs, the Bhadu songs, the Jhumur, all these are used by them. But the Tushu song, in the Tushu song, there are different interpretations of who Tushu is. I would request you to go to the next slide, because then, yes, this is the Tushu Protima or the Tushu idol that is created out of mud. It is created out of cow dung, and all these colors are natural colors, most of them. And they use marigold, they use vermilion, and there are different stories or legends about the origin or who this Tushu may be. Sometimes she is called the daughter of a king who was in love with a man from a different society, so she committed suicide. Sometimes she is said to be the daughter of a rich landlord who was about to be married, but her husband died on the way, and so she committed suicide. Sometimes I have even come across legends which she is said to be Padmini of Chittor. But whatever the story, the end is always the same: death through self immolation. This actually gives us a picture of the society. So, for almost a month, in the from end December to from mid December to mid January, they sing these songs. The idol is created. It is kept in a very sacred corner of the house. Every day, the unmarried girls of the house gather. They sing these songs, and at the end of the entire festival, 1 month festival, her idol is immersed. So actually, why are they crying? For who or whom are they evoking? It is the mother goddess or nature goddess. In Hindu mythology, we talk about goddesses as being a part of our making, the very origin stories. Mother goddess is there at the origin story. And these people, indigenous people, the Santals, they believe that somewhere they are the children of the Mother Earth. So Tushu is again for them a representation of Mother Earth. Next. So what happens through these folk songs? Language preservation, rituals are kept. As I told you, slowly they are being lost, and a sense of belonging. They have a very, unified spirit. They are very united where their own people are concerned. So the sense of belonging is created through this bonding together and singing. Next. So I was talking about the challenges to intergenerational transfer. Of course, there are challenges, modernization, migration. That is very important because now this entire forest area, it is slowly being cut away to, this has become this area known as Ajodha. It is the Ajodha hill system actually. It has become a very important tourist destination. So a number of resorts are coming up, and these people have been dislocated from their original habitation in the forest, and they are kept now in small kind of huts, and they are not very happy there. The younger generation is not interested. They are going to schools, they have the urban influence. So slowly the culture is dying away. For instance, among the beer horse, the other community I was talking of, only two people now talk their original language. And they themselves told me, we don't know what will happen once we are gone. So, next. We must make efforts to preserve and document all these resources before they are gone. It is like very difficult. Next. So it is a kind of virtual storytelling board. This picture, as I was telling you all, the ecological way of preserving the huts. When they have the Karam festival, just before that, they paint their huts, not with artificial colors. With cow dung, a surface is created. Then they use all, I can say, herbal colors to kind of create this house, which will provide them warmth in winter and a kind of cool atmosphere in summer. So, next. Thank you. This is Adi Johar, which means thank you from their perspective. Okay. I think we have other presenters now. I had 20 minutes, but I think I've overdone my time.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for insightful and evocative address. Your analysis and strategies in cultural knowledge, biodiversity in agriculture, sacred flora, cultural continuity about the Mother Earth is really informative and such an idea-provoking address about the paper, ma'am. Of course, the cultural is dynamic too, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Now, let's move on to the paper presenters. At first, we have here Mr. Soumyadeep Ghosh, field investigator from ICSSR, to present on the topic Identity, Marginalization and Documentation, a comparative study of visual representations of Indian indigenous communities through a post-colonial lens.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Teachers' Day, and for this opportunity, just let just just let me present the PPT.
Excuse me, sir.
Is the PPT visible
Yes,
in the
yes,
full screen?
yes, yes, full screen.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Uh, Hello everyone. My name is Soumyadeep. Uh, my topic is identity, marginalization, and documentation: a comparative study of visual representations of Indian indigenous communities through a post-colonial lens. Uh, Particularly, I will be focusing on the visual representation of Indian indigenous communities and will attempt to do a comparative study between the colonial photographers and ethnographers there was and uh, the post-colonial photographers of India, particularly focusing on two photographers, Sunil Jana and Pablo Bartholomew. So, photography has always been the tool to document what one sees. In its initial period, it held the status of serving the ultimate truth or photographic truth. However, uh, soon it got criticized for its subjective and manipulative capacities. Later, theorists analyzed that a photograph can have multiple interpretations and the photographer can influence the meaning making process of it as well. Uh, as a similar concept was also furthered by Roland Barthes in his idea of photographic paradox, where he explains that photographs are both objective and subjective. They present a literal representation of a moment or a denotative meaning, yet they also carry a rhetorical or connotative meaning, influenced by the photographer's perspective and the context. However, with the technological advancement and easy access of camera have made this medium further popular enough, especially in this photographically oversaturated era. Using photography by photographers, ethnographers, and anthropologists, travelers, journalists over the years shaped what and how we see, imagine, and perceive certain things about indigeneity and also about our society. In John Berger's Ways of Seeing, Berger argues that photography both preserves and distorts our memory, influencing our understanding of both individual moment and also historical narratives. In India, particularly, photography also played a significant part in the British colonial project of mapping indigeneity as well as the Western Christian missionary agendas. Anthropologist Christopher Pinney says that there is a little doubt that photography has always been a crucial part in the documentation and formulation of the understanding of the indigenous communities over the years. John Tagg, in his book The Burden of Representation, mentions that because of its quantifying and reality appropriating capacities that perfectly suited the realist and quantitative aspirations of anthropologists, photography asserted itself as the ultimate tool in the quote-unquote regime of truth in many areas of Victorian society as well. What gives photography its power to invoke a truth was not only the privilege attached to mechanical means in industrial societies, but also its mobilization within the emerging apparatuses of a new and more penetrating form of the state. Uh, Coming to Indian context, the idea of documenting indigenous Indians first took place through the attempts of British ethnographers and anthropologists. Books and series like Oriental Races and Tribes that you can see in the slide, and also the People of India are the earliest testaments to this uh, ambition of photographing Indian indigenous communities and also other non-indigenous communities as well. However, the photographs in this collection by the colonial photographers like Benjamin Simpson, Charles Shepherd, Arthur Robertson, or William Johnson William are somehow imperialistic from a post-colonial lens. The indigenous people were documented and slotted into indexes, stripping of their individual identity and agency. They were encoded as numbers or by the name of the community they belong to. Many of those photographers apparently may seem as portraits, those photographs may seem as portraits of groups or individual, but they are not aesthetically. As any portraiture involves active collaboration between the subject and the person making the painting or the photograph, and not simple depiction of a face or figure. Uh, Diva Gurjal, the co-author of Photography in India, Visual History from the 1850s to the present, says that ethnographic photography is a kind of anti-portraiture. Portraiture is about individuality in a way. It is about capturing the likeness of a person. It is about collaboration between the subject and the person making the painting or portrait. Ethnography is the absence of all this. It is uh, about reducing a person to a type or uh, index. My this paper particularly focuses on two photographers from India who extensively worked on the indigenous communities from different parts of India. The first is Sunil Jana. Um, his magnum opus Tribals of India is a photo book that situates him within a broader debates of ethnography, photography, and representations of indigenous communities in India. The photographs in this book, taken between 1943 and 1972, are based on extensive travels to remote indigenous villages and forests. Though Jana clarifies in his preface that the book is not a sociological or anthropological study, it functions as more than a travel diary. It offers a monographic exploration of the cultural, political, and the socio-economic conditions of indigenous peoples in a transformative historical period. A very peculiar thing about Jana's visual practice is his focus on the gaze of his subjects. Uh, if we the confronting many of visual focus on the subjects, many of whom look directly at the camera, thereby confronting the viewer. If you study closely, the approach, though not unique, echoes documentary traditions such as Jacob Rees in the 19th century America and Raghu Rai's images of Bangladesh Liberation War. The techniques infuses the photographs within immediacy and agency, contrasting sharply with the colonial ethnographic photography, which tended to objectify its subjects, as also mentioned by Professor Ranu Roy Choudhury. Uh, This slide basically explains the chapters and the areas Sunil Jana covered during while working for this book, and the map basically shows how which areas he covered um, in making of this book and photographing. Ethnographic photography in colonial India often reinforced hierarchies, though through anthropometric methods and classificatory schemes. As anthropologist Christopher Penny argues in Classification and Fantasy in the Photography Construction of Caste and Tribe, mostly the works commissioned by the British photographers such as Benjamin Simpson exemplify this tendency, depicting indigenous people as typological specimens. But Jana, by contrast, sought to capture and explore people within their environments, presenting them as individuals with identities embedded in culture and geographical context. We can see the comparison between the portraits of communities like Mishmi Chulikata by two photographers. On the left side, a Chulikata Mishmi woman captured by Benjamin Simpson in 1860 in Assam district, Assam state, and on the right there is again a Chulikata Mishmi couple in Nizam Ghat, Arunachal Pradesh. This is photographed by Sunil Jana. Uh, Jana's practice was informed by his political and intellectual milieu as well very much. His association with P.C. Joshi of the Communist Party of India and anthropologist Varier Elwin, with whom he collaborated in the Tribal Welfare and Research Unit as well, shaped his empathetic perspective. His writing acknowledges the systemic struggles of indigenous communities, such as state exploitation of their customs, the forest department's restrictions on their traditional practices, and the precarious relationship between indigenous livelihoods and the state power. However, Sunil Jana also faced criticism, particularly for his photographs of bare-bodied indigenous women, which some reviewers dismissed as erotica or exotic. Jana defended himself by stressing that nudity was part of their community's customary attire, and his aim was not objectification but faithful documentation. Overall, we can say the Tribals of India stands at the intersection of documentary, ethnography, and political engagement. It resists the colonial lens, foregrounds indigenous dignity, and insists on reading photographs not merely as ethnographic data, but as living records of culture, struggle, and identity in the history of Indian indigenous studies. The next photographer I'm looking into is Pablo Bartholomew, who has a decade-long engagement with the Northeast India, represent a landmark contribution to his visual anthropology and documentary photography. Uh, Pablo, driven partly by a personal connection, his father was wartime encounters. Father was also a Burmese refugee, and his encounters with the Naga hospitality uh, sparked a special interest in Pablo since childhood. He embarked on journeys across Nagaland, Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, traveling in a self-sufficient jeep, often through politically tense and geographically remote regions. He documented lives, rituals, and attires of diverse indigenous communities. He celebrated projects like Coded Elegance, Marked with Beauty, foreground the cultural codes embedded in dress and adornment, beadwork, textiles, tattoos, animal part headdresses, and jewelry that highlight lineage, status, and collective memory. These can also represent their traditional knowledge systems that Professor Nibedita Ghosh was also talking about. Uh, Pablo Bartholomew's photographs have very uniquely uh, documented them in a modern, obviously in a stage photography manner, but also while incorporating their traditional attires and their traditional setting and setup. These richly colored portraits illuminate a cultural grammar often overlooked in mainstream narratives. Alongside his black and white images also depict everyday life of their rituals and garments. Uh, Bartholomew's photography resists the so-called exotic nature of indigenous photography. Unlike colonial ethnographic studies that reduced indigenous peoples to specimens, his lens emphasizes dignity, individuality, and agency. He portrayed his subjects within their environments, allowing landscapes and homes rituals to serve as backdrops that uh, root identity in lived space. His empathetic gaze documents not only customs or costumes but also transitions like Christian conversions, insurgency, and the influence of modern state policies, reflecting communities negotiating continuity and change. His works have been exhibited widely in India and abroad. His work is both archive and also homage, we can say. It preserves a vital visual history of Northeast Indian cultures at a crossroad, ensuring that their complexity, resilience, and beauty endure for future generations. There are many other photographers who extensively worked on the indigenous communities of India, but for the time limitations and other constraints, I have limited myself to these two photographs only here. Uh, Coming to the importance of documentation process, particularly visual medium, uh, photography or any visual medium plays a significant role. The famous phrase from John Berger's Ways of Seeing is that seeing comes before words. It highlights the fundamental role of visual experience in our understanding of the world. Berger argues that words are then used to explain and contextualize that experience. Indigenous identity is directly attached with indigenous land, rituals, religious and cultural practices, and nature. The displacement and forced migration often make the indigenous people rootless, and thus the photographs of them in their own landscape and context is important and is a reminder how those people are living in those places at in the past, and what is the condition right now in the present, to do a more uh, critical comparative study. Reading the photograph should encourage to locate the changes that have been taken place over the years in India. It is also important to visually compare how indigenous land, crafts, traditional attires have changed over the past decades, and how industrialization and globalization have affected these people. Thank you.
Yes, we can have the next speaker.
Thank you so much for the interesting presentation and to trigger some people to read about documentary, photograph agency, images, ethnographic, and its classification, diversity of communication. Now we have Mrs. Nandhini, PhD research scholar, Department of English in Queen Mary's College, here to present her paper on the topic Valli giving voice to the voiceless in Wayanad's changing landscape.
You're not audible, Nandini. Can you hear Nandini, or am I the only one who can't hear? Can't hear. Um, shall we go to Trisha's paper and give Nandhini? Nandhini,
Ma'am, am I audible, ma'am?
only now you are audible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I will share the screen.
We can see your screen.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Okay. Now I'm going to present a paper on Valli, voicing the voiceless in Wayanad changing landscape. Ma'am, the slide is changing or it's stuck in the first page
Yeah,
itself?
it's not moving.
Excuse me.
Uh, you send it to me. I'll send it to Nancy.
Sure, ma'am.
Um, my number. I'll put my number in the chat box.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, I have sent the PPT, ma'am.
Yes, I've sent it to Nancy. You should stop sharing. She'll share.
Okay, ma'am.
When you want to go to the next slide, you say next. Then she'll move it.
Okay. Shall I present?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. The novel I have chosen today is Valli. It is written by Sheila Tommy and is translated by Jayasri Kalathil. Next slide. The novel Valli, written by Sheila Tommy, it is a powerful narrative about the history of environmental struggles of the Wayanad district in Kerala. This book serves as a living record of the atrocities committed against nature and indigenous community. The story unfolds across four generations, primarily through the diary entries, letters of a woman named Susan, who recounts the stories of her family and the land to her daughter Tessa. Next slide. The setting of the novel. The novel set in the village of Kalluvayal, situated deep in the western Ghats of Wayanad in the South Indian state of Kerala. This region, with its lush forest, winding rivers, and diverse flora and fauna, serves as a vibrant backdrop to the novel. It tells the story of several characters from different generations. The story is connected to the changes that happens in the region of Wayanad. The novel starts with Sarah and Thomichan, who eloped and migrated to the forest of Wayanad in 1970s. Their daughter Susan grows up in Wayanad and becomes deeply connected to the land and its people. She sees the forest being destroyed and the local communities being forced to live. Susan writes in her diary about how sad she thinks she makes her, and how she disagrees with the way things are being done. Susan's daughter became involved in environmental activism, fighting to protect the forest and its rights of the Adivasi communities. Next slide. Okay, in this novel, Sheila Tommy talks about Pania community. Actually, Pania community, also known as Panayar or Paniyan, it is the largest scheduled tribe in Kerala, with significant populations also found in parts of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka sometimes. Karnataka. The name Paniya is derived from the Malayalam word pani, which means work, and it reflects its historical role as a agricultural labors. And historical and social context of this novel is the Paniyas were an enslaved community, and the practices of Valli Pani, which is bonded labor in exchange of very less share of the crops which they do in the agriculture. They were often treated as bonded laborers on the lands of a non-tribal landowners. While the Bonded Labor System Act of 1970s formally abolished this system, many Paniyas continue to face socio-economical challenges due to lack of land ownership, low literacy rates, and systematic downfall of their own community. They have often been marginalized and exploited, but grassrooted movements and organizations have played a crucial role in advocating for their rights. The Paniya people have a rich cultural heritage and a unique tradition. They live in a village called Padis or Chalas, uh, consisting of few huts. Their religious belief or blend of Hinduism and local traditional beliefs, which with chief deities includes Katu Bhagavati kind of thing. Their cultural practice are deeply tied to nature and their environment, and they have their own language called Paniya. Actually, the author uses Paniya language. The Paniya language doesn't have any written form, but the author uses she actually put the word to the language, and she wrote it beautifully. um, their traditions include specific clothing styles, folk dances, music often performed during the agriculture activities, and festivals like Valliyur Kavu Temple Festival, kind of things. Next slide. Okay, the challenges and development they faces. The Paniya community is often considered one of the most disadvantaged and vulnerable group in the region. The challenges they faces include poverty and economical backwardness, educational backwardness, and health issues. Due to the historical role as a landless laborers and their limited opportunities, many Paniyas live in poverty. They often work as daily wage earners in agriculture or on plantations. Literacy rate, while improving, remaining a significant challenges. Many children drop out of school due to family economical conditions. Lack of infrastructure in tribal schools and curriculum, they may not be crucially relevant. The community faces various health problems, including malnutrition, and has limited access to modern health care. The next slide. Okay, the core theme and concept. Indigenous eco-criticism versus human greed. The novel paints a vivid picture of Adivasi community and other indigenous communities of Wayanad who embody a unique eco-critic vision. Their entire way of life is deeply intertwined with the forest, which is not just a source of resource, but also the center of their cultural and spiritual identity. They are depicted as nature's guard, practicing sustainable living and demonstrating a profound respect for the environment through rituals and beliefs tied to deities like Vanadurga, which is a goddess of the forest, and Jaladurga, a goddess of the water. With the British colonialism, the British systematically cleared vast stretches of forest to establish commercial plantations like tea and coffee, driven by the empire's demand for timber and the resources. They enacted laws like Indian Forest Act of 1927, which is indigenous community by labeling their ancestral forest as a reserved or state property. After the independence, the resource exploitation continued uh, under the state, which is called state-sponsored top-down development. The novel portrays how business like granite mining and tourism further destroyed the land, displacing people and destroying the ecosystem itself. The characters like Yvonne Joseph and Luca Sunny Paulos represent their modern day greed, with Luca with Luca even setting a fire to the forest as an act of revenge or to hide their illegal activities. Some people of belong to that community. They themselves destroy their land without knowing the disadvantages, without knowing the causes which they are going to experience in a near future. Actually, the word Valli is a symbol of struggle and identity. The title of the novel is a central metaphor with the Malayalam term Valli represent four key concepts that encapsulate the book's essence. First one is the vine, symbolizing symbolizing the dense interconnected forest of Kalluvayal. Kalluvayal is a village which the author talks about. Next one is earth, representing the land itself, which is under threat. Third, young women, serving as a metaphor for the female character who see themselves as the extensions of the forest. Third one is the most important one, wages, which is bond labor. Most importantly, Valli refers to the exploitative system of the Vallipani, where indigenous people were forced into bonded labor in exchange for mere wages. The novel highlights how the struggle for Valli has evolved. The Adivasi people who once fought for fair wages are now fighting for their very earth, which is their own land. This shift from the economical struggle to a battle for a survival and environmental justice is a core narrative thread of this particular novel. Next slide, please. Okay. Resistance and advocacy. The novel is not just about a tale of despair. It is also a history or chronicles act of powerful resistance. The Naxal movement. The text mentions the Naxal movement in Wayanad, led by the figures like Comrade Verghese, who organized agriculture laborers to fight for fair wages and against bond labor. Next one is community activism. Characters like Padmanabhan and Peter are depicted as a social and environmental crusaders. They use various methods such as street plays, study camps to raise awareness about environmental issues, indigenous rights, and the importance of preserving the forest. They actually they actually provide a camp for the students who students of the Pania community, so that the children can learn from the street plays and camps, and to get awareness from that. Protecting traditional knowledge. The book also addresses the exploitation of indigenous knowledge, specifically medicinal practice. The disappearance of the local healer, the lady called Pemmi, after a mafia connected to a tourist industry tried to exploit her knowledge, highlights the threat to traditional wisdom and communities' response through the protest. Next slide. Nature's retribution and hope for the future. The novel suggests the nature is not passive backdrop but an active force. The devastating flood at the end of the story is portrayed as the nature's wrath, a Valli of price that humanity must pay for its recklessness exploitation. The flood is described as washing away the Babel Tower of human greed. However, this the end of the novel is not purely a dystopian. It is intertwined with many hopeful instances. The characters like Tomuchan hope for the better future, believing that the time will come when the language of the human and the forest will become one, and the people will learn to love the earth and respect the nature. The novel ends with despite the destruction, a renewal is possible if humanity changes its way. The essence, in essence, the Valli is rich and complex work that uses the multi-faced narrative to expose historical injustice, celebrate indigenous wisdom, and offer a powerful cautionary tale about the consequence of the environmental and social exploitation. This it is a story of intergenerational struggle, cultural identity, that timeless bound between people and the land they inhabit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nandhini, to giving clear knowledge, and it personally triggered me to read this novel. Thank you. At last, we have Mrs. Thrisha, our first M.A. English, Queen Mary's College, here to present her paper on the topic from oral to written, a tribal tale of betrayal and justice.
Super boss. Mic off only.
Ms. Thrisha,
Very good. Congratulations, my dear.
hello, audible?
கொஞ்சமா சுவாதி.
Yeah, you are audible.
Real work करता है.
Wait a minute, I'll share the screen.
பெரியப்பா இருக்கு, நல்லா பண்ணியிருந்திருக்கலாம்.
Okay, good evening to everyone present here in this virtual meeting. I'm Thrisha Sindel Kumar from Queen Mary's College. First of all, I thank God for giving me this chance to present today. I also thank Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan ma'am, head of the department, along with Dr. Priya ma'am and Dr. Aruna ma'am for their support and guidance. Title of my presentation is From Oral to Written, a tribal tale of betrayal and justice. First, see a short introduction about G.N. Deva. His full name is Ganesh Narayan Dev. He was born on 1st August 1950 in Maharashtra and he is still an active writer today. Dev was a critic, linguist, educationalist, and cultural activist. He is best known for collecting and preserving tribal stories and endangered Indian languages. He also received the Sahitya Academy Award for his book After Amnesia. Some of his other works include of many heroes and painted words. He was also awarded the Padma Shri in 2014 for contribution to literature and education. In slide 2, we are going to see about the book Painted Words. It's an anthology of tribal literature. It is a unique collection that brings together myth, epic, legend, lyric, autobiographies, and dramas from different Indian tribal communities. This anthology marks the first attempt to bring oral traditional oral tribal traditionals into written form in English. This collection highlights important aspects of tribal life such as community living, close relationship with nature, spirituality, and cultural values. G.N. Dev vision went beyond simply writing down stories. He wanted to paint their words so that these words would survive through time, just as painting withstands rain and sun. The different colors, the title symbolize the wide variety of emotions, ritual, belief, and traditional found in tribal life. Each story become like a stroke of color, adding to the richness and vibrancy of their world. I would like to deconstruct Shakespeare's sonnet, a sonnet for permanence. The word permanence means to the state or quality of lasting or remaining unchanged indefinitely. In this interpretation, we can see this Shakespeare sonnet. G.N. Dev takes the place of Shakespeare, while the tribal people becomes the beloved. Just as Shakespeare prized his beloved beauty as eternal, Dev highlights the enduring values of tribal culture, traditions, and voices, giving them permanence through the written words. Now you can easily understand what I'm trying to say. You can see the first line. The first line explains that G.N. Dev promises to write about the tribal people so that time itself will preserve their identity, unique culture, traditions, music, dance, language, and connection with nature. The second line explains their beauty and the way of living will be preserved in his writing like a treasure locked safely inside the chest of time that cannot be destroyed. The third line explains even if time makes the stars fade and lose their lights, their history, tradition, and culture of tribal peoples will remain everlasting. The fourth line explains Dev ensures that the tribal people heritage is remembered forever with respect and admiration. The fifth line explains the world often forgets even the most beautiful stories, most beautiful paintings as time passes. The sixth line explains just as roses wither and die in winter, beauty in life also fades with time. The line 7 explains, but words written in ink have permanence. Is trying to say that he has written the words in immortal ink that cannot be faded. The eighth line explains, these written words continue to preserve and declare the history and tradition of tribal people. The ninth and tenth line is very important. Even when Jian Dev body turns to dust after death, and even if his voice is silenced, his book will live on. The 12th line explains this book will prove that tribal history, language, culture, and oral traditions continue to exist in the world. The 13th line explains, even though time takes away everything from us. The 14th line explains the culture, tradition, stories of tribal people will be immortalized forever within this book. I hope we all remember the story of Crow and Cunning Fox. It is an oral tale passed passed from generation to generation. Over time, people retold and reshaped the story in different ways, which created many versions. In the same way, tribal stories are also carried forward through oral tradition, recognizing their value. GN they've sought to collect and preserve these stories in written form, ensuring that the rich culture of tribal communities would not be lost. Through his work, Painted Words, they wanted to bring tribal voices into the limelight rather than leaving them in the shadows of dark. These stories do more than entertain, they also teach lessons and values to each new generation. The next slide is about Adivasi. We all know Adivasi means original inhabitants of India. The word Adi means first or ancient. Vasi means inhabitant or people. Adivasis are the tribal people of India who have been living in the forest, hills, and rural areas for thousands of years, as we know. In the book, in the introduction, G. N. Dev explains that it is not easy to define who tribals are in a single way or in a single word. In today's context, we are the people, like many people, view tribal people as most underprivileged or underdeveloped group in India. However, Dave reminds us that tribes are not only simply the original inhabitants or they radically distinct. In modern India, tribals are often recognized as because they are socially and economically disadvantaged. Many tribal people still they face poverty, lack of access to education, healthcare, and modern facilities. And because of this, they frequently labeled as underdeveloped. The book Painted Words focus on India's tribal communities, their identity, their culture, language, especially their oral tradition. Dave argues that merely classifying tribals under government labels such as scheduled tribe or backward communities is too narrow and fails to capture the richness of their culture and tradition. The slide 7 explains what is legend because I took one legend from this book. A legend is a traditional story, often about heroes, gods, saints, or historical figures that is passed on from one generation to another. It is usually mixture of facts and fiction. Some parts may be true, while others are imaginary or exaggerated. This is the short summary of that legend. The legend of Kaba and Baji is a tale of courage, betrayal, and revenge. Kaba was a brave leader of a nomadic group who cared for cattle. During a famine, he moved his herd to a place called Asu. Even though his wife Pema warned him it was a dangerous, that very night a tiger attacked, but Kaba killed it and saved his herd. Proving this courage, however, a village leader named Baji, jealous of Kaba's bravery, pretending to be his friend, he invited Kaba on a hunting trip. And when Kaba was off guard, Baji betrayed him and killed him. Pema, who was pregnant at that time, was devastated. Yet she made a promise that her husband's death would be not be forgotten. She raised a son with the story of his father, bravery, and betrayal. When the boy grew strong enough, he comforted Baji and killed him. And that last they'll do a ritual. After that ritual only, the boy consider that the revenges came to end. In this, the major themes we can see. The first one is geography. Geography is nothing but the place where they live. The story takes place in Daldeora, in a village in Dalaud district of Gujarat. Is the home to many Adivasi communities. Kaba is the chieftain. Chieftain means is the leader of a tribe to the settlement. He lead the Dangar community who traditionally herded cattle. Is a one type of community people. Their name is Dangar. Their main occupation is to take care of the animals like a cow. Their livelihood is depend on the cow. During that period, the region faced a severe drought, which formed the central struggle of the legend. The climate is Daldora is characterized by hot summer, dry winters, and low and uneven rainfall. The summer was in between March to June. It was extremely very hot with dry winds and drying water sources. Due to drought, many tribal families are often forced into seasonal migration. They used to migrate from one place to another because of the seasonal changes. The second one, we can see the culture. During a severe drought, Kaba, the leader of the tribe, sent men in different directions to find water and grass for the cattle. The first four members returned with an empty hand. The last group reached and said a good news. They have found a land that are a very rainfall as a green grasses. They bought back of fresh grasses and Kaba wife Pimbai performed an aarti to celebrate their success. Even in our family, we used to follow that culture, the aarti culture. Here we can see what is aarti to the tribal people. In tribal tradition, when someone returns with success, such as a good hunt, victory, or important news, they feel others may get feel or jealous. Tribal beliefs jealousy or the evil eye or harm to that person. The flame of the arati protects them, burning away the negative energy and keeping their success safe. And then fourth, we can see the superstitious belief. Even nowadays, in our family, we'll see this. Superstitious means believing in things without evidence, often involving luck, omens, or magic. When she performed the arati, the flame blew out, and she considered it as a bad omen, warning that was sent from the ancestors or God. The next theme is bravery. Here we can see the bravery of Kaba. Kaba stayed alert during a dark, moonless night to protect his cattle. When a tiger attacked the earth, Kaba did not hesitate. It chased the tiger, grabbed it by the jaws, and killed it, saving the cattle. This shows immense physical strength, bravery, and courage of the leader, and it shows the leadership quality. And the fifth one is betrayal. Baji, Akaba's brother-in-law, pretended to be friendly while secretly planning to kill him for his wealth. After Kaba bravely killed the tiger, Baji took him to river Naira. He was exhausted. He wanted to drink some water, so he bent down and started to drink. He saw the reflection of Baji's sword in the water, but he trusted him and he thought it may be a joke, it may be a prank. In that moment of trust and vulnerability, Baji stuck and he killed Kaba. This scene shows the betrayal is more painful when it comes from someone close. Yeah, that's very true. Then we can see the stereotypical oppression. Stereotypical oppression is when people are treated unfairly because of common ideas or stereotypes about them. This is the line I took from the book Painted, which listen, you can understand what I'm trying to say. In his dying moment of Kaba, he cursed Baji, saying, "My wife is pregnant. If she delivers a daughter, she will fetch water for your household. But she, if she delivers a son, he will take revenge in front of the entire village assembly." Kaba then died. Here we can see the stereotypical mindset of the person. Nowadays, it was changing. Out of 100, 70% it is changing. It wasn't. It happened in olden days. So we can see the stereotypical oppression, and then the dependence of women in patriarchal society. After Kaba's death, his wife could have taken revenge since she was completely dependent on him. As a widow, she may have experienced deep sadness, feelings of emptiness, and struggled to cope with the sudden absence of her partner. During the murder, Kabab might have said that his wife would take revenge, but instead, he addressed his unborn son. Next is blood feud motive. After Kaba's murder, The son grew up knowing about his father's curse and promise of revenge. As he became strong, he killed Baji in front of the village and he thought that revenge was over. In literature, a blood feud represents endless cycles of vengeance between families or generations. This story shows how revenge becomes a legacy, passing from father to son, and reflects the tribal belief that justice and honor must be upheld even across generation. And then this is the last one I already mentioned. It's a ritual. After killing Baji, Kaba's son took Baji's head to his mother. He said, "Mother, see, only when you sit on his head and take a bath will my revenge will be complete." The mother also obeyed what he had instructed, performing the ritual bath, and with this act, Kaba's revenge was finally fulfilled. This is the story. But we want to learn a moral stories. Yeah, oral tradition is about they are teaching a moral lessons from one generation to another. To truly understand what is good, we must also recognize its opposite. Then only we can easily identify it is a wrong or it is bad. Tribal stories teach us that never curse or betray others. Second, please don't blindly trust someone, those who speak with sugar coated words. Men and women deserve equal respect and rights. Avoid jealousy and work hard for your own success. God ultimately punishes the wrongdoers. Justice may be delayed, but it never fails. At last, by concluding, I want to compare a poem that was written by Syed Amanuddin, "Don't Call Me Indo-Anglian." To conclude, we can compare the poem "Don't Call Me Indo-Anglian" by Syed Amanuddin with this tribal book. In this poem, the poet does not want to be labeled as Indo-Anglian. He don't want to label like that. He simply wishes to be recognized as a poet. Similarly, the painted words should not be seen only as a tribal literature. It is a collection of stories that teaches moral values which are universal and relevant to all humanity, not just for one community. In 21st century, the moral values are degrading. Learning these timeless moral values is especially very important in upcoming generation as they continue to guide and inspire people across generation. Thank you for your patience listening. At last, I want to thank to all the passive listeners, heartful wishes to all the teachers, a happy Teachers Day. Thank you. Thank you, Thrisha, for your insightful presentation. Thank you to all contributions, presentations. If you have any questions, observations, or if you want to share anything, please feel free to drop in the chat or raise your voice.
Yes, thank you, all the presenters. The keynote speaker, I was really a debt of gratitude for having told us that small, in a small way, you can document the areas that are around you. So, Nibedita, madam, thank you for that. I wanted to just ask you, you did mention Vandana Shiva in your while talking. Does
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Vandana Shiva's area, that is that what do they she called that Navadanya schemes and all that? Does it take in all these areas? Does she collect seeds?
No, she hasn't directly referred to the area of Purulia or all these areas, but what she has spoken in general about this ecofeminist perspective of India, I have found it to be highly applicable to my area of research also.
Yeah, I too have used her book a lot. I've read a lot of her
Yes.
work. That's why I just wanted, I was interested in that scheme, Navadanya scheme, which was collecting seeds of all
Yeah,
indigenous.
not from this
That's
area.
that's one way of
Yeah.
conserving, I mean,
Yes.
all the biodiversity for the future. Thank you, madam, for that. That
Thank
you have
you.
proved that in a small way, universities and educational institutions of that area can interact with. I mean, people are in and around. Okay, that kind of research is not really available in places like ours. And
Yes, I understand.
yes, thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Soumyadeep Ghosh, thank you for that perspective. I just wanted to ask you one question. Have you found out that these, the ways of, your different ways of photography and presentation, has it led to, do you know of any instance when it has led to any kind of conflict or, between nations or publishers or countries or something like that? The way you
Hello.
present.
Yeah.
I just because I was reminded of many years back when Reader's Digest brought out their geographical one digest, big one. I looked up Assam, and as I don't know how, I just looked up Assam there and found out they had recorded it as a place where fierce tribal people lived, and they used, bows and arrows. And I was just wondering, because that's not the Assam I have been I have known, right? They just only that kind of, they presented it like that. So, do they even, that's a prestigious publisher like Reader's Digest did it in that book. It's still available. And I think very soon, I think in the next week after I read it, there was a litigation against them. Somebody from India did, because of the pictures that are, these pictures that are presented. You have said that there are ways of presenting which makes the seer represent that country or is in a different light, or the tribals.
Yes, yes.
Have you come across any such disparity or controversy?
Okay, so just reminded two instances. So one is in the Sunil Jana's book, The Tribals of India. He mentioned in the preface of the book that uh, he completed the work. I mean, he photographed between 1943 to 1972, and he basically completed the work by 1972. But it took him almost 20 years, 21 years actually, and it got published in 93 by Oxford Publication. So he mentioned that in the 20 years, it is true that there are some kind of procrastination, or I mean some lack on his part, but also he mentioned that there are some serious lack of enthusiasm and interest from the prospective publication houses in India where he approached the work. This is one thing. And during the, as you mentioned that any unwanted issues or situation faced by the photographers. So in Sunil Jana mentioned one thing that whenever he tried to go into some area, he usually, as he had worked with Varier Elwin and also he had a political background, so in many cases what he did, prior to going to that place, he used to he tried to make some connections there, and then he tried to approach the people there. And another instance I remembered, there's in Andaman, but I don't remember it is in Sentinels Island or some other island, but in Andaman Nicobar Islands, one American missionary went there long back and he got killed. But the reason of his killing was mainly that just before him, there some other Westerners went there and attempted to photograph those particular that community, and in the process of photographing they basically abused them physically and mentally, and so they got very scared. So since then, and after just after that, maybe few years or few months back after that incident, when the American missionary, that guy went there, though he didn't have any particularly intention of photographing, he had some other interest. They attacked him and they eventually killed him. So yeah, there are some instances like this, but coming to Shumiljan and Pablo Bartholomew, the photographers I mentioned here, uh, Pablo Bartholomew worked quite later than Sunil Jana, but yeah, both of them mentioned that they took various measurements and I mean prior to going to any places or in approaching any community.
Yeah, they do, because we read everywhere that tribals don't like, Westerners that who come to photograph them. Right?
I
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
I'll talk for the students later.
I have a question or observation for Dr. Nibedita and for Thrisha. It's about patriarchy in tribal society, tribal cultures. So Trisha also mentioned that, in the dying moments, the man says, if it's a girl, she will fetch water. If it's a boy, he will take revenge. And you said that. So I just want to know, this patriarchy, is it an influence of the mainstream culture, or it's inherent? Inherent.
You're not audible.
It is inherent. Mainstream culture has got its influence also, because slowly they are being more urbanized, at least a portion of them. But from the earlier perspective, when I spoke to some of the older women, they said it was always there. Means it happens, kind of. They have accepted it. All right. Each of them have around 10, 9, 10 children, and then the burden of feeding those children and everything is on them only. But they are kind of, they have accepted it. There is a bristling anger within a certain portion of women, which I found quite interesting, because slowly maybe a change is coming. But with the older women, they were more passive towards it. Okay, it happens, something like that.
And
Okay.
the alcohol that you mentioned, is it a native brew?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
mohua. Mohua is a flower of the tree, and it is
a local liquor?
yeah, local liquor.
It's all in the forest. From Orissa, I think almost all the forests have this, no?
Yes, ma'am.
They
Yes,
do this.
yes. Yes.
I saw the tree. Well, it's in Orissa.
Okay.
Trisha, if you permit some feedback, I found that your approach, um, very seasoned professors will wonder, whether we may have some reservations. But though I read your paper before you presented, I let it be, because I like the idea that of you, bringing in texts that you have that appeal to you, like Shakespeare's sonnet and that poem, Do Not Call Me Indo-Anglian. So maybe the term you can use, don't use comparison, say resonance. It means it resonates. Okay.
Okay,
And
ma'am.
yeah, and then you can use stereotypical gender roles. You could have used the word, you have used that. Um,
Okay, ma'am.
what I liked about your approach, you're only a first PG student, and there's a lot of originality in you, and you're doing your going about your presentation very passionately. So I like that.
Thank you, ma'am.
I also found it very unique,
You mean,
actually, because maybe, as you said, people will have reservations about it, Shakespeare, but from a PG student, this is kind of new blood. I always look out for this. This is very interesting. I found it.
Yeah, I was also trying to tell her that maybe in greater research, you have to stick to the legend, maybe find out who, because the title is Adivasis. You have to say which group of people and what. Of course, I liked just the way she brought in the oral tradition, and it's all over the world. We have these moral lessons from there, or all of the West, Canadian literature, everywhere you find this. So that she could have connected it like that. But then she chose to make it, Syed Amanuddin at one end and Shakespeare at another. The connection, I was just wondering where she's heading, but she made the connections right. So that's good, Priya. But for active research, you have to go deeper in. Okay. And then about the Wayanad, there's a movie on that by Wayanad story, Valli. So there's a movie, and that's first the documentation comes from a tribal about their way of life. It's that is.
And also you have the movie on Palasi Raja. Palasi Raja.
Yes, they have the king. Even now, there is a king somewhere in Rani. He's a very modern kind of person. But he has been chosen the king of that area. I just saw in the documentary. I was so surprised. He had to come back from his active life as some clerk somewhere. He came back into sing because he's next in line. They do have kings. They still maintain it. And when he came in with all his gear, that kingly gear, he came on the TV. So it's there. They do have but one thing about their kings and the kings of yore, right, was different. That these kings were leaders. They led the people for the people. That's what I liked about that thing. And another thing about the Paniya tribe, when she said that people don't have scripts. They do have almost all the tribal languages have some of them have scripts that are used. Okay, the Orons, the Hos, I think Santalis all have their own scripts that you can look up. Okay, that even the Valli was a good presentation.
Valli, I have traveled extensively in Wayanad, and I went to Panavedi, and I haven't come across this. Sorry, Nandhini. This book Valli is very interesting, and I have a lot of interviews and all that. I worked on C.K. Janu, so I just wanted, but nice to see a a work of fiction on the same issue. So this, of course, you must be knowing it already. So there are waves of deforestation and denuding the landscape, beginning with the British, and now the modern capitalists, the estate owners. So and then, of course, Palasi Raja, he fought the East India Company, he fought the British. So there's the struggle for Wayanad, the battle for Wayanad, battle, fighting against these forces of which deforest the mountains and the landscape is has can say it's been a losing battle, but this battle for environmental justice, though it may not have been worded that way, and so many stakeholders. See, one was Palasi Raja, and then the then they fight for environmental justice with more awareness. So they were made bonded labor in their own land, in their own native land. Um, Very nice work. And the word pani, there was one um, Adivasi social justice group which did a literacy project named Pani work that is related. Pani.
But Tamil also is the same. Malayalam is just Tamil only. Most
Mm.
Adivasis use a kind of Malayalam which is more akin to Tamil than uh, in Kerala. They use it's more closer to Tamil than Malayalam.
So that in that Nibedita ma'am may find it interesting. In that that project that they took up, when they this literacy project, the keyword was punny.
Okay.
So that's how they created awareness among the Adivasi people of Wayanad that they were being exploited. So they learned basic numeracy, numerical skills, and they found that people were making them sell a chicken for 5 rupees when it costs 100 rupees. So this project called Pani created awareness amongst them.
This exists even in Purulia and Bakura, all these indigenous areas in West Bengal also. The people are so innocent, they do not know the actual value of the things they are selling in many cases. So these medicinal herbs and all these things I was talking about, they are bought for a pittance, and then in the market this moringa, it is taken from them at a very low price, and then it is all kind of tablets are made of it and all kinds of powders, packaging, and then commercialized at a different level altogether.
What
Then
you showed was Shatavari, ma'am. What picture?
Yeah.
Nandhini, have you read C.K. Janu's Mother Forest?
Yes.
Yes, I have read that, but
Ah.
we're talking.
No, ma'am, I haven't read that yet, ma'am.
Okay, we'll
I'll
meet
try to
later.
read.
I have a lot to share in connection with your work.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, you
I'll
have to
come and
look
read.
at this. There's these communists. I think these Adivasi people there they parted ways with the communists. Uh, so that self determination of the Adivasi people was a kind of as we were talking about awareness. Even the Communist Party workers they found were exploiting them,
What
and they had a nexus with
Bengal
the plantation. The nexus with the plantation owners was there. So.
I find this echoes a lot with Bengal also,
yeah,
because
that's
in
Mm.
why
Bengal
it's
also
the same.
during the communist rule, there was a lot of exploitation
So
also.
every I mean, of course, Congress and others were capitalists. These
Hmm.
were different. They were for the downtrodden. But even they are mainstream people. Their thing is only to,
They
everywhere.
don't understand. They don't understand in most cases.
C.K. Janu has gone political now. I mean, after having written that,
Now
yeah,
things
she
have
is now
changed.
with the BJP. Yeah, she is. It's a very. I mean, all of these. I mean, she was the only one who could voice their needs, but it's sad. I don't know. Everywhere, everybody goes like that.
Like Srilata ma'am, I don't have any problem with people going with political sides
Mm.
if they keep working for the
Yes,
people, because we need power to work in reality.
yes.
So for that, if they go for one particular side or the other, the communists or BJP or whichever group is coming in, I don't have a problem. Professor Davy, for instance, he
Yeah.
had his own affiliation, so it doesn't matter, but what they should do is use that power for the
Yes.
coming of these people. That is all that
Do.
matters.
That is what they don't do. That is why we are all worried. That's
Yes.
why NGOs have to make it to
Yes.
educate them.
Soumyadeep, my question to you would be in the interest of the students also. See, ethnography, no? You were speaking about ethnography. Is ethnography primarily Eurocentric, or um, you were referring to Eurocentric ethnography, or you're saying your ethnography itself is Eurocentric as a practice, as a research practice?
So the idea of ethnography, I mean, as far as I know, came from there. But at this moment, we are also practicing ethnographic studies, and I mean, even Sunil Jana has been critiqued as ethnographer in many places by many photographers and also anthropologists and ethnographers as well. So I think
Mm.
it is in the approach. Whenever we say the word Eurocentric, I think the other terms like colonialism and
Mm.
gaze, these things also come with this in the same line. But I think it is in the approach. Ethnography is definitely an important part of many studies. Even I'm associated with the project that also includes ethnographic surveys and research. So it is not maybe a problem with the ethnographical research, but it is in the approach. It is about the treating the person as a human being and trying to understand them, and not just merely to i mean uh, document them only. So I think it is more in the approach, and it is not like if a person is from Europe, he will be uh, quote unquote Eurocentric in his ethnographic research, and if a person is brown skinned and South Asian or South global South, then he or she will be very much liberal. It's not like that, maybe, because we can see when coming to photography, we can even till today we can see many photographers from India itself who follow a very much colonial perspective or lens or gaze in their approach while photographing indigenous communities. Maybe that person is
True.
from Bengal or Kerala, or in any place in India or South Asia, or maybe the person is himself is an indigenous person, maybe. But maybe as somehow the trend of photography or visual culture has been set by the Europeans in the earlier times, so maybe they are following the same path. So I think in case of ethnography also, it's depend on how we are approaching the whole thing.
And actually, this session kind of intersects a lot with my interests. You mentioned anthropometrics. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So even these, these the British Raj, they have in the armies. They have the Rajput regiment, and they had these ways of measuring the skull, shoulders, and deciding, and even going by the physiognomy. Um, so they selected people, stereotyped, and they essentialized and selected people for various roles. Um, I I was interested in your mention of anthropometrics there.
I think that is how they determine, no, how where they come from. As
Mm.
I mean, their Australia, that Indian, Austro-Indian origins and things like
Mm.
that. Like they say Caucasian and all that. I think they did go by biometrics a lot in the 1940s during Hitler's time. They used to do all that to.
Racial profiling,
Yes.
racial profiling. And in Australia, they had this phrenologist friend that the capacity of the skull, no, how much water it could hold, the skull, the remains of Tasmanian Aboriginals. So the intelligence of people was measured by the capacity of that skull, physical capacity. These are all strange practices that they had. And Soumyadeep, congratulations on taking a unique approach, studying, juxtaposing ways of seeing the photographs in by colonial people, the colonial mindset, and the post-colonial approach. So that was very interesting.
Thank you, ma'am.
In fact, we were Vinita, as one of her students, prospective PhD scholars, is looking at ways of seeing John Bergman's beginning her work there.
I
So
think
we got excited.
Perrier Elwin also has said somewhere that people didn't like that. He lived with the tribals. He had a wife among the tribals and things. They're not. I think some of the very select photographs only he has given to the outside world. I don't know whether his photograph because they are shy. They don't like it. They don't like that kind of photographing, So I think we have a purpose in taking a photograph. That's what he was trying to say, where
Mm.
sell today, where it will sell, how you make yourself hit. Now this Nandita's about the Valli, okay, that person has, there is a person who is photographing the funny of the people. Okay, they are being for the documentary has come and it is from their perspective. That I just read about that. So I think when they do it, they know what best to instead of outside photographers doing. They know best what of their lives they would like to show the world.
But Srilata, at the same time, I don't know what Dr. Nibedita would say. An educated tribal person may be considered mainstreamed,
That's what I
denatured tribal.
yes.
Or I don't.
I don't know what
Yeah.
she would say. I would say that, but I do not know. She lives with them, so I mean she goes amongst them. So,
Mm.
Madam Nibedita can comment on that.
uh, yeah, the actually the thing is their orientation changes in most cases once they mix with the more urban society. Kind of their priorities change in many cases, like they are no longer interested in living the traditional village which was theirs once. They make houses in the mainland and things like that, and so the people who are left back or people who do not believe in going out, they kind of consider them to be voices from outside only. They don't really give them that much of a place within their society.
Mm.
There is a sense of betrayal somewhere, I feel.
Mm. Mm.
That's what Hansa Saudekar also talks about in some of his short stories. No,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
educated,
yeah.
they're betrayers. He said.
Yeah, they are betrayers. At least somewhere that they may not use the word exactly, but the sense is there. The sense is there.
And doesn't the mainstream community expect them to behave like the once they come into the IAS or that kind of cadre? The
Yeah.
mainstream, yeah, expect them to behave like what do you call the urban, what
No,
we call in
over
brackets.
here, I would, Srilata ma'am, I would like to say that the mainstream society, more than expecting them to be or behave like the mainstream, it is they are always looked down upon. Means I feel it becomes a kind of in between land for them now, nor are they accepted in their own village anymore, and at the same time the people from the mainstream society somehow they look down upon them. Like if you have a doctor from kind of ST category, I have heard some colleagues say that I won't go to that doctor because he hails from that community. So maybe it is because of our quota system or something. We consider they are less educated or they are less intelligent in some ways, though it is not true.
Something is very difficult to throw out of society. This kind of
Yes,
root it out. It's very difficult.
it has become a mindset with us. It is very difficult to fight it.
I think racism is also there all over the world. All over the world, it is there.
Dr. Nibedita, since you're doing grassroots research and in touch with the community and the people, personally, would you prefer that um, prefer prefer them not engaging with modernity, or you would prefer a kind of blend of modernity and more heightened awareness and about environmental justice, about the more organic way of life and assertion of their identity, self-determination. Uh, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, because even urban people are now going in for things like slow living, uh, moving away from urban centers. So, is there some way in which they celebrate who they are, uh, being very celebrating their identity, and as a matter of choice, that being Adivasi as a matter of choice more than circumstance? Dr. Nibedita, sir? I think she's left.
Please.
Adivasi by choice and not merely by circumstance is what I'm positing.
No, I don't think they would. Nobody would prefer that. Very few people is there. Even
Yeah,
amongst us, even amongst the mainstream community, how many of us are traditional? I mean, keep to traditional ways or celebrate tradition alone. For us, it's just a day, one day when we celebrate the
that's
days.
true, Srilata. But now you see these IT people making a conscious choice and leaving IT and going into farming and
They
things
go
like that.
into farming, that's all. That they
Yeah.
go into farming, right? Up they
Mm,
comes there, and that too they know how to market their products.
mm, mm,
So I'm
mm,
not very. All corporates are corporates, no matter what.
mm.
They're not doing it to distribute the goods that they. I mean, they make a thing out of it. Maybe they'll just donate. We are still doing what the capitalists do. At some point in time, we do some.
True,
Yeah.
true. Shall we
Students,
close?
yeah, students don't have any doubts on any of these students from the student community, not even one voice.
Yeah, there. Some of them have dropped out.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting late. Jivita, we can close, Jivita.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you everyone for sparing your time, and I believe everyone has learned more from today's session. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Srilata. Thank you, Soumyadeep. Thank you, Nandhini.
My
Thank
dear.
you, Sai.
Okay.
Nancy. Thank you. Bye, Srilata.
Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for coming, even though you had guests. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.